Hello, welcome to Kitchen Science. My name is Miss Diane. I work at the Ridgefield Library and I'm at home today and I'm thinking about science and I want to make things that are in the house. I don't feel like going out to the store. So I'm finding things in the kitchen that we can do science experiments with, and you can do them too at your house. I brought someone from the library to help with this particular experiment. This is Rosie. I bring Rosie out at stories in the Ridgefield Library. She happens to be the little red hen. And in the story, the little red hen wants to make some bread and she needs some help. It's a very big job. So she asks her friends and they really don't feel like helping, but you know at the end of the story that they change their tune and they become good helpers. Well, she came to help me for the experiment today. So Miss Rosie is going to give us something that we need for our experiment. Oh, thank you, Rosie. Look at this. She gave me an egg. She actually gave me 2 eggs. And we're going to need 2 eggs for our experiment. Our experiment today is about eggs, and it's called Bouncy Eggs. And it's about making eggs bounce. Now, I know if I took the egg and dropped it on the plate or on the floor, there would be a very, very big mess. So I'm not going to do that. But I would like to find out if eggs can really bounce. So when you do a science experiment, you always have to think about what you want to learn, because experiments are fun, but it's also the way we learn. So here we are. What do we want to learn? So today we want to learn if eggs can bounce. And how can we make eggs bounce? What do we need to do to make eggs bounce? So the next thing you need to think about when you do science is what supplies do we need? What things do you need for the experiment? So for this experiment, if you want to do it, there are 2 parts to this experiment. So you need 2 jars, small jars or glasses. They don't have to be jars. You need 2 eggs. You'll need a bowl and a spoon. You will need a paper clip. The paper clip, I bent it up a little bit. We have 2 plates here, 2 plates. And you will need the special ingredient, and the special ingredient is called white vinegar. This is distilled white vinegar. Now I buy this in a great big jug. I use it a lot around the house, but sometimes you just have it in the kitchen because you put it on your salad. So those are the things we need for the experiment. So let's get started. So you'll take one of your 2, actually you're going to take each of these jars and you're going to end up putting the vinegar inside. But first, you're going to take one of those eggs from Rosie or from your egg carton, put it carefully into one of the jars, make sure it doesn't break, and you'll put that aside. And the other egg, we're going to make it hollow. We're going to take what's inside out of the egg and then also put it in a jar. So the way we do that is we're going to take that paper clip that I bent up and I kind of made it into, it looks like a little pokey needle. And this is the part that you'll need an adult to help you with, okay? So when I look at the egg, it kind of has a point on one side and it's wider on the bottom. I call the pointy side the top and the wider side the bottom. So I'm going to take my paper clip and you have to hold on tight to the egg and you poke it into the top. And mine didn't work the first time because it's very hard. And when you make when the paper clip goes into the egg, you wiggle it around to make the hole a little bit bigger because you're going to actually be blowing inside this hole to make the insides come out. Let me see if you could see my hole. There it is. Kind of small. Turn the egg around to the bottom. Do the same thing. That's why a parent needs to help you. Push it very hard inside. like that. Wiggle it around, and this hole I want it to be a little bit bigger than the other one on the other side of the egg because all of that stuff inside needs to come out. See how it's a little bit bigger? Well, you can take the paper clip and poke it inside that hole because you actually want to break the yolk up inside so it comes out nice and easily. Now this is very, very, very important. Wipe the egg off. You do not want to ever eat raw egg. And you might want a parent to help you do this. But I turned the egg around so the little hole is on the top and the big hole is on the bottom. Now I'm going to blow very hard like I'm blowing into a balloon. It takes a lot of blowing strength. And make the egg come out the bottom with luck. Watch, let's see if it will work. It did not all come out. Where did I put my paper clip? I'm going to poke it some more. Actually, I think I'll straighten my paper clip up to make it longer so I can be sure to poke that yolk inside because the yolk is the part that's hard to get out sometimes at first. Let me wipe it off again. I don't want to get it into my mouth. Whoop. Try it again. 1, 2, 3. Did you see that yolk come out? Now the egg is hollow. There is nothing inside, just a little bit of the egg white still left in there. So I have one hollow egg and my other egg that I already put in my jar. So you'll take the hollow egg also and put it into a second jar. And both of the eggs are in 2 jars, and you will fill it up, cover the egg up with the white vinegar. Now, interestingly, not a surprise to you, I'm sure, but the egg that is hollow is floating. So you might need to push it down till it gets filled up with vinegar a little, or put something heavy on top so it stays covered in vinegar. Now, because vinegar is very smelly, I decided to use jars that I could close up so I wouldn't smell the smell. But what you will see happening really almost immediately, you will see that the eggs, both of the eggs, are covered with bubbles. And the reason they're covered with bubbles is because there's a chemical reaction going on. Vinegar is an acid, and an egg's shell is made out of calcium carbonate. So the acid should dissolve the shell, make the shell go away if the egg is in the vinegar long enough. So I did this. You have to do this a little bit ahead of time. So after you put your eggs in your jars, you have to wait 2 days. That's 48 hours. So I put these eggs in the jars 2 days ago. I have 2 other jars here that have eggs in. And this one is full of bubbles. Well, actually, they both were full of bubbles. But this one is still full of bubbles, and the bubbles are all over the eggshell. And let me see if maybe you can see the bubbles. You see the bubbles? And it's spinning around in the vinegar, isn't it? Well, those bubbles are actually carbon dioxide that's coming from the eggshell as it's being dissolved. So it's really very cool to watch. So while you're waiting those 2 days, you can peek at your eggs. But let me show you what to do after the 2 days and after you open your eggs. So we're going to start with the jar that had the egg that was not hollow, that still had the insides, and we're going to take it out. And maybe I'll rinse it a little bit with water. Rinse it off a little bit. Well, what I found was the shell is very, very, very thin. In some places, the shell is still there, but in other places, there's this yellow, transparent, you can see through it, part of the egg, and it feels like rubber. It feels like rubber. And that's because inside of every eggshell, there's a part that's kind of rubbery, and it's called the membrane, and it holds the inside of the egg together. Well, unless it gets a hole in it too, or a big crack. So once the shell was dissolved by the vinegar, by the acid vinegar, it made it grow bigger. Let me show you the difference in size. Do you see how this one is bigger? And you can almost see inside, but watch the surprise. Watch the fun. I don't know if I could show you this better, maybe without the dish. Ah! Oh my goodness! It bounced, but I bounced it too hard and it broke. That's science. If you don't bounce it quite as hard as I did, yours won't break. But that's okay, because that's science. You never know what to expect. So I'm going to show you the other egg that is in a jar with that was hollow with the vinegar. And you can take that one out as well. Let's get rid of this dish. And this one's a little bit different because there's no yolk inside. There's no inside to that egg. But there's the shell is coming off of the membrane. That's that membrane I talked about. A membrane looks like a balloon. It looks kind of like a balloon. So I practiced this yesterday, and it took me a little time to take off all the parts of the shell. But if you do it very carefully, you will be left with what's called the membrane. So the membrane, I told you, looks like a little balloon. So from the one I did yesterday, I cleaned it off, and I got a teeny, teeny, tiny little egg balloon. It's called a membrane. And let's see if we can bounce this. This doesn't feel bouncy to me. It just does feel like a balloon, a flat balloon. But if I keep bouncing it on my hand, it's not as bouncy as the egg was. If I keep bouncing this on my hand, it will fill up. It will dry. It was a little wet. It will dry and fill with air and be the shape of an egg. Whew, I'm having a hard time not dropping it. Oh no, I got it in a wet egg. No good. No good. Let me try it again. But it's lots of fun. It'll keep you busy for a while. And it will go back to its egg shape, but it will feel more like a balloon. Let me try it one more. See if I can pop it up for you. That's what's fun about science. It's also a little frustrating because as you're doing experiments, you never really know what will be, what the outcome will be. But you always learn something. So in making my bouncy eggs today, I learned a few different things. There, it's filling up with air again. So have fun. If you keep bouncing it, it will become shaped like an egg, but I dropped it again in the yolk. But that's okay. So what did we learn today? We learned what happened. What did we learn? Today we learned that if you take vinegar and dip an egg in the vinegar and let it sit there for quite a while, that the shell will dissolve. Now after the shell dissolves, the membrane still holds that egg together, and it can bounce carefully, but I think I bounced mine a little bit too hard, so it broke. But you can also see that the shell dissolved on the hollow egg, and what was left inside, we could see that membrane better, that membrane that holds the egg together. And you could play with it and make it bounce in both different ways. So that was fun. Thank you, Rosie, for giving us some eggs for the experiment today. And maybe you'd like to try this at home, and maybe you'll learn some other things. One other very important thing I learned, don't bounce your egg too hard or it will break. That's one thing we know about eggs, right? So farewell. Hope to see you another day, and we'll do more kitchen science together. Bye-bye.